Welcome to Sustainable Sailing.
Welcome to a very windy boatyard. You might be able to hear it whistling in the background. It's blowing a gale outside. This is the third in our Refit Tips series and we're focusing on headlinings. During our refit, we found that the headlining has been a cause of lots of problems from the past and an ongoing cause of problems during the refit. Some of the problems that had been caused in the past weren't picked up on the survey or by us when we looked at the boat because they were hidden. In this video, we let you know what we've learned so far, how we'd handle it differently next time, and what we're planning to do now.
As we think about the problems that our headlining has caused over the years, the chart table is a good place to start. We can see that there is some quite significant water damage, particularly on that bulkhead and the side of the chart table. The rest had been protected for quite a long time, we think, by a bit of foam plastic which had caught the drips. We and the previous owner and the surveyor felt that it was the original window here that was leaking. However, when we took the headlining off, what we discovered is that this area here was extremely wet. The headlining was really soggy, and all of this filler material here and the wood was absolutely black and full of water. So what we eventually realised was that a lot of that water had come all the way up here from this derade vent, and there were stains showing how the water had run along the cabin roof. This area was completely hidden by a plywood sheet that was screwed to the cabin roof and the headlining was glued to. When it reached the sides, and you can see here, the foam back vinyl was glued directly to the fiberglass. And all of this meant that the water ran down here and then sat, held by the vinyl against the side of the boat. It didn't then drip from there onto the chart table because this area here had a plywood covering which was then screwed on, and that was covered with vinyl. So water sat on this plywood and in the vinyl, and only some of it leaked onto the chart table. But because the vinyl was all glued on, nobody could take it off or examine it to see what was happening. By taking off the vinyl, we were able to discover, yes, the windows, all of them were leaking to some extent, and we'll show a picture that demonstrates why people had been unable to seal them, because the headlining glued to here actually wrapped round and to the outside of the window opening where the frame was screwed in. And so any sealant put around the window frame didn't have much space to work before it started wicking through the headlining. What we also know, and this is true in lots of places, is now we've taken this off, we can see all the bolts for our genoa track and the bolts for our gate in the guardrails. Nobody's been able to access those bolts for 44 years, so we don't yet know how many of those are also leaking. Another problem that we uncovered as we removed the headlining is that there are two aluminium hatches, one here and one in the aft cabin, and they were both leaking, and the acrylic was totally crazed, so you couldn't see out of them. When we wanted to refurbish them, our problem was that these bolts that hold the hatch on were covered by a strip of wood running along here, and then the plywood for the headlining was fixed to that strip of wood. So the nuts were completely hidden inside the first piece of wood, and that piece of wood couldn't be removed until the plywood was removed, and the plywood couldn't be removed until the vinyl headlining glued to it was removed. None of it could be removed without damaging it. This view of the forward saloon shows another area which was very difficult to deal with. The pole is the mast support, and the headlining was a single large sheet covering the entire saloon roof. It had been installed with a little cutout for the mast support before the mast support. We can't remove the mast support now, and therefore we would not be able to install a replacement headlining as it was originally. And that's true in quite a few places where the headlining was installed before other bits of furniture or trim. That meant that taking great care to remove it so that we could use it as a template wasn't as helpful an option as you might think. This roof in the forward heads compartment demonstrates some other problems that we had. What you can see there is the plywood that is still screwed to the roof. The glue and the remaining bits of foam mean that we can't easily find where the screws are. The heads are completely hidden. Our plan was to strip the vinyl off because a lot of it was coming loose, and then reuse the plywood. However, the glue securely holds bits of the foam that we end up with a very rough surface that's still tacky and not really easy to reuse. But here you can see the difference, that on the roof the foam was stuck to a sheet of ply screwed up, and at the sides the vinyl was directly glued to the side of the cabin, and that still leaves a gluey residue. The worst place for that gluey residue is on the underside of the forehatch, and again the vinyl was installed before the fittings for the struts or for the securing bolt, and so we couldn't tell where water was coming in. We just could feel that the whole hatch area was wet, and we couldn't see how to seal it without removing the headline. So we've talked a lot about the problems that our headlining has caused us and how messy and difficult it has been to remove it. So we want to just talk now about what would we do differently.
Yes, I think if we started again, we'd just take all the headlining out in one go in each area as we came to it, because you have to take everything out of the entire area because the dust is horrendous. And you might as well just get it all over with in one go.
Yeah. So we thought we were going to keep some of it, we thought we were going to renovate some of it, we thought we were going to use some of it for templates. None of that worked. So we'd have been much better to just take it all out, get it cleaned and painted to make it a more livable space.
Yes, it's amazing what a tin of bilge paint can cover. It covers the glue and any residues that are left and makes it clean and usable.
Yeah, it stops smells, it cleans it all up and makes it feel a lot better. So if we're doing it next time, we would just blitz one cabin at a time, fully removing every part of the headlining so that we only had all the mess once. And that would have allowed us to avoid some other problems where we didn't realise which fittings were leaking, and so we kept getting water in because we hadn't removed enough headlining to track down the problems. Given all those lessons, what would we do? What are we going to do now?
Well, we think insulation is really important on the boat, so we do plan to put some back in, and we've chosen closed cell foam insulation and a fire retardant type. Unfortunately, it is only available in black, so we want to cover that so that we can have a finish other than black in our cabin. So that's our plan going forward.
Yeah, we've tried paint, it doesn't work brilliantly because
on
the foam because it flexes and then the paint cracks. We know we definitely don't want to use vinyl because a vinyl PVC is an environmental disaster. It's going to be around forever, and so we don't want to create more of that for future generations. So we're most likely looking at the foam insulation between 10 and 20 millimeters thick, with a plywood sheet that is screwed through the foam to the boat, and then painting on top of that.
And when we put up the new headlining, we will make sure that it's in smaller sections so you can take down anything you need to check behind it.
Smaller sections and all the fastenings visible, so you don't have to break other bits to work out how to take it off. And that we feel will be a far better way to keep the boat maintenance down for us for the future and look reasonable.
Hopefully it
when
will
somebody
last
else
for
wants
another
it.
40 years.
Absolutely. So that's our experiences of our headlining and what we have done, what we would do differently. We hope that helps you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up.